Hello, Lucy here. Are you a creative who's taken the road less travelled? Do you have a story that could inspire others? Well, I want to hear from you. Share your journey on the show and motivate our listeners to chase their dreams. Click the link in the show notes to register your interest or send me a message. And remember, if you are enjoying the show, then please head over to wherever you get your podcasts from and rate and review the show. Your feedback really matters. Thanks for listening. Stay wild.
Oh God, a classic timeline. A classic timeline. You're going to totally understand what I do then, why I look like I do.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of The Wilderness of Creativity. Today I'm talking to Maria Terry, a talented performance designer who completed her Masters in Performance Design at Bristol Old Vic in 2021. Maria is part of the East Midlands Collective B team, creating theatre that sparks conversation and change. Maria was shortlisted for the coveted Limbury Prize for her innovative, sustainable approach to stage design. She is also a seasoned speaker and workshop facilitator at institutions around the UK, as well as for schools, youth groups and community organisations. In this episode, we talk about the chaos of school productions, navigating the post-COVID theatre landscape, what it really means to create sustainable theatre design, and how the arts are evolving in these challenging times. I do hope you enjoy the episode. If you do, then head over to wherever you get your podcasts from and rate and review the show. Your feedback really matters. Right, let's get to the episode.
That is amazing, and I know it's going to be great because also what I've learned 10 years deep is that you might as well do it like that, and that timeline you've described there is probably less chaotic than actually what the professional timelines are. So you might as well do that with a load of year threes and year fours because you're probably going to get just as good a results. That's all it's going to take. Block it in the classroom, get it on.
I do think, why do we do these things?
Yeah. It is also a form of, you're doing a form of I don't know, punishment to yourself.
I always say my strapline is no rest for the wicked. Honestly.
So are you full-time teacher, but you're the person that does you're full-time primary, but
yes.
You're the person you're the director of all the shows as well. Yeah.
Effectively, I'm a full-time teacher, full-time burnout queen.
Say no more. Welcome to the podcast. That is literally one to the other. Great. Well, I don't need to explain how I look then. Let's go.
So please put me at ease because my life sounds a bit chaotic. What have you been?
I thought, thank God I've spoke to someone who actually understands me.
I do understand it. And also this is why it's taken perhaps just so long for us to get together because
that is why.
You are so busy. Tell me what you've been up to recently.
Well, my normal working week at the moment is I work full time. I work full time in education, and that all changed. I've been freelancing for 10 years, but my practice completely changed, and the face of the industry, the theatre industry, changed post-COVID. So I'd always sort of had supporting work, and then I'd been lucky enough to work freelance with no supporting work for quite a long time, and then the pandemic hit, and it did change everything about my business and about me as a practitioner. So I've found a really nice balance now where I work in education, work in secondary schools during the week, and I also lecture at higher education courses as well. And that pays my studio rent here, which has changed my life to be at Banks Mill. Really has changed everything about how I work. It's got me a mortgage, and it started to pay all my student loans. So it was like catch-22, 6 one off, dozen of the other, and also needing to, I guess, toe the line in terms of what I needed to cover financially to still stay in the game. And that is because of the cultural canvas of how the UK and the arts funding is at the moment. But that's where I am. So basically, yeah, here we are on a Sunday, and my weekends are then, I'm then going to run a business for the week.
Of course, because we don't have enough to do.
No, it doesn't matter. Obviously, I don't need to sleep.
Tell us about the Banks Mill studio, because it looks incredible. For those people who are listening to the podcast, the Banks Mill, it's a kind of an arts hub.
Yeah, I think they describe it as an incubation hub, as part of the branch of the University of Derby. So open for these studios are open to rent to any local artists, graduates and non-graduates of the uni. And you're given a space. You do pay rent, but it's a really reasonable rate compared to what a lot of commercial places are. And you're given loads of support and encouragement, business advice, and you're sort of in this incubation, is what they call it, for like 3 years. And each year you get reviewed, and they see how you're getting on, and you get to do open studios once a year. I mean, at the moment, I'm piloting doing that more regularly. I've got a little focus group of tenants at the moment. Obviously, I've come in and I've started
Changing things.
Yeah. Yep. So I thought, I'm not busy, so I'll just chuck that in. No, so we love to do open studios once a year in November, and everyone in the local area knows that they love it. They come into Banks Mill. We're open for 3 days across a weekend. But the footfall's great, but also, as you can see, well, you can, but like listeners can't. But my studio's a bomb site. But what is good is that in open studios, it turns into a shop, and actually it can sell my goods and have like customer interaction, which is lovely. So we're really trying to start doing that in 2025. My goal is, and there's a really bunch that are keen, a bunch of us who are keen to start doing it once a month and get it in the public calendar, that we sort of come in, have a coffee, look round, sort of thing.
Brilliant.
So make it into a bit of a, I was going to say mini Derby, but that's literally not what it is.
I love that. I love that.
We've lost the Eagle market, so I'm trying to, just get because with the local trade, because it's so difficult to book yourself into loads of fairs and markets as well as doing everything else at the weekend and lugging everything up and down 4 flights of stairs. So that's the idea of trying to get people to come to us. So that's where we are.
What else do you make?
So this is so funny, Lucy. You're just going to be like, God.
I love you already,
you don't
Maria.
have to be mad to work here, but it helps. So there you go. So last year, I'm a professional theatre designer and maker for, that includes any live performance. So I've also done TV and film and worked in production design. So that's what I've been trained in and what I love doing and what I've been doing the longest. But my master's, I did a master's at Bristol Old Vic in 2021, graduated out of the... went into the pandemic, graduated it out, because nothing of my life journey is easy. I must have annoyed someone in a previous life.
Well, I don't know. I had a baby, so I really pissed somebody off.
Oh God, could see. Yeah, I literally need to think about 2025. And I don't know what's around the corner. But yeah, so that's what I did. That's what I studied. And when I did my master's, I specialised in sustainable design and looking at unconventional material usage, because theatre is really, really wasteful. Everyone who works in it knows. You do a show you spend months and months and months making beautiful stuff, painting it to an inch of its life, intricate, beautiful scenery. It goes in the skip, literally skip. Next day, another one, because there's no storage, and space is always at a premium in most of these buildings. So anyway, when I did my degree, I really looked at making trash into treasure, and like how I really love punk movement, and I've been a Vivienne Westwood fan all my life, and that I made costume out of rubbish and tried to go. I looked at it from maybe through a couture lens, but also how it could work practically in a theatre setting. And there's a real appetite for that now in the industry. I was sort of on the earlier end of it, but off the back of that, the end of last year, I really wanted to start. Because when you're a designer, you get hired to make for people all the time. It's with someone else's vision, and you're sort of you are doing your own, but you're fulfilling a brief. And I wanted to do something for me as a maker, so I launched made a new brand. I was like, it's an accident, Lucy. This was an accident, and I always think
love it.
The best design decisions are the best things you can do. That always are accidents, and you don't mean to do it. So I made a brand called Pretty Rubbish, and I launched it at Open Studios November 2024. And it's jewelry and homeware made from junk that I've got a method where I melt down HDPE plastics, which are drinks bottles, old Tupperware, anything that's been thrown into landfill. and I make it into something beautiful. So statement earrings, jewelry. I've got my 3D printer whirring in the background. That started to print recycled filament. So that's really, really early, but that is what I'm selling alongside my practice, and it sort of complements what I do. So yeah, and it's colourful and mad, so it kind of suits.
And
suits
do you
me.
have a website for this?
Yeah.
I know you have your website, but
Yeah.
it's pretty rubbish on there, or is
all
it?
there? So I wanted to have it all in one place. I didn't want to start
Okay.
confusing people. So yeah, it's there. So if you go into my website and click on the tab that you can take you to shop, there's a shop tab that you can go on, and it's pretty rubbish is there now. So yeah.
I love it. And, you and I can tell we share very similar sort of energy, very similar outlooks on life. Any opportunities that are coming up, you're like, yep, I'll do that. Yeah, let's try that. You follow your nose. And I love that. And it can lead us down quite interesting paths, and we don't always know where we're going to go with it. The podcast absolutely was one of those things. I had an idea, met somebody. I was in a week. I was like, I'm going to do a podcast. I didn't even have a laptop.
Good. But when you know, don't you? When it feels right in your core, you have to do it.
I think it's about listening to that instinct and following that curiosity, and that's what's so exciting about it. Talk to me a little bit about what you're noticing about young people that are coming into this industry now, and the skills that they have and the ideas that they want to share. Like,
what's exciting is that they've got fresh ideas to what I'm already doing, and also they sometimes, as you will definitely know, they'll just go, "Why are you doing it like that?" Or "Miss, what do I like? I don't understand." Or they challenge me because I might have to bodge something in what I'm doing because I'm working under time pressure. And whenever I'm teaching or I'm doing something, it really needs to be the right way, do what is right, not what is easy. How's that product gonna stand the test of time? How's that design gonna really benefit the team that you're working with? So that is hilarious, and I always get it makes me a better designer to actually work with young people. But the range is huge. So from like secondary up to higher education, you can get people, they're older than me, some of the students, and they've lived a life and they're coming to design in a different way. So yeah, but also with the eco stuff as well, that especially with the younger generation, it's so current in their life, and actually in their future it's way more influential than potentially it is going to be to me. So they've already got ideas that they've thought about, that they're concerned about, and then that really gets their juices flowing, I think. But yeah, there's also, I think there's also a lean towards, there's so much digital technology at the moment, and I came from a real analog. I was just drawing on paper. I was a painter, I didn't even have an iPad or, like you, a laptop when I went to uni. And then it was like, you need to do CAD, you need to go to SketchUp, 3D drawing, 2D drawing, you need to do ground plans, you need to be able to model, you need to do all these things. But theatre combines traditional skills like model making and like handcrafting, woodwork, with all of those new technologies. So it's a real challenge, but actually young people naturally have all of the technical stuff down, so it's quite good to come in and still be able to teach those, I guess, more traditional hand skills that they still need.
What the theatre's going to be doing in sort of 10 years time, 20 years time. What is theatre going to look like?
I don't know, it's a great question. We always ask this in meetings, because I sit on a couple of panels for different organizations within the UK design scene, and everyone always asks this because, God, it's actually quite sad. Like week to week at the moment, there's lots of cuts to funding, lots of cuts to education, lots of theatre courses, design courses, that they're literally gone. They're being slashed. Unless there's funding coming back in, they won't actually reappear. So we're going to slowly, and we are already seeing that deficit to backstage crew that are being trained, stage managers, designers, like the backstage people that actually make theatre work and tick and make a production actually happen. We're already seeing a decline in the numbers of that because the courses are going. So I think there is always a question mark over how does it work. Theatre's the one thing where you still got to be able to, at the end of the day, you still might need a scenic artist to make your whole set, because it's live. It's not like TV. You can't edit it. It just has to look like the thing it needs to look like, and it has to work on those nights that it's going to be on. So there'll always be a need for it, but no one knows the answer, because it does feel like it's an archaic thing that's maybe kind of being not pushed out, but shrunk a bit.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And if the courses, like you said, aren't there, and obviously, those people who are listening who are in education, you will know that certain vocational pathways and subjects, how they're grouped together in sort of the blocks that children can choose, they are opting for other subjects. They're not choosing art subjects.
Yeah, and it's a tough path. It's a tough path because, I've always had to, you have to, my friend once said to me, and he's bang on, I was like, yeah, I get it, but, to be honest, Maria, you have to be a freak, don't you, to do your job? And I was like, yeah. And I pondered on that for ages, and I was like, you're right though, aren't you? Because no normal, like, I'm looking out the window now, everyone's having a nice Sunday. Like, you have to be a freak to do this. And I was thinking, God, that's backhanded compliment, but you bang on, because the determination just to literally just still exist within the industry and keep turning over your practice, turning over, evolving, moving with it, is enough to put people off, unless it's literally
in their
what you want
blood.
to do, I guess,
Yeah.
in you and what you want to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're so
So,
driven by it.
and even then the admin, and I've done all my
oh,
books this morning, all the flipping tax and receipts and all that, and like, just it's still just you that's running this thing, and there's no training for that bit.
there's
So
no
that's
training.
That's the bit that I try, and even when I talk to students, I'm like, I really want that bit to be more visible, because that is a shocker.
It's true though, isn't it? Like, when we go to do our degrees, even with teaching, nobody talks to you about the faff of paperwork that you have to complete just to take a group of children out on a trip.
Yeah.
But the hoops
Yeah.
that you have to jump through in order
Yeah.
just to do your job.
Mm-hmm.
No one talks about
Yeah.
that.
No, teaching is like of a day, and maybe it's like the 10% in the day, and then other 90% is all of the other stuff that you have to do: the forms, the paperwork, the marking, the safeguarding, the, I don't know, the 5 productions that you're directing as well.
It's mad.
Yeah. If you're doing a what we call a tech week alongside your full-time job.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. What are you working on at the moment? What's the biggest sort of like production that you're working on? I know you do a lot of work at the Nottingham Playhouse, don't you?
I mean, it's only Feb, and I
It feels like October.
Yeah, it does feel like October. And I was just writing a list here and being really harsh on myself, and I thought, you've done a lot saying that it's only been like, what are we in, like the 5th week of this year or
5th week
something?
of this year. It's not good enough.
So I thought, yeah, I've tried to, because I really want to grow Pretty Rubbish, and I'm passionate about it at the moment. I'm trying to focus on getting this open Saturday shops maybe up and running this year, which will be really exciting. But the theatre stuff I've been doing, I did a really exciting, a lot of this stuff as well. It's really hard to talk about theatre stuff. It's so funding dependent, so I can talk about it a bit, but until it's like bang, then I'm under an embargo. So basically, the stuff that I've worked on, there was one really exciting thing held at R&D at Nottingham Playhouse, which is with a really exciting group of artists. I can say I'm going to give her a shout out because she'll hate me for doing it. Called Emily Howlett, and she's an amazing artist, director, writer, and she's written a new play, kind of like set in an escape room. So that's like I say, and that was a research and development phase that going into looking at getting more funding for that, and that was, I set up a photo shoot for that in January, which I'll be sharing Instagram pictures of. Incredible. This month I've got fingers in so many pies, but I think the other title thing that I'm working on, so it's going to be at Derby Theatre this spring. I'm working with a designer called Eleanor Field, and I'm assisting her. So she's the designer on a show called Kiss Me Quick Step, which is fabulous. That's going to be at Derby Theatre this spring. If you like Strictly, if you like Blackpool Ballroom, Glitz Glat, and then that's going to be the show for you. And I'm the design assistant on that, which means I'm actually doing the technical ground plans, AutoCAD, computer aided design on that. So when she gives me the model box, which is going to be the beautiful scale model, I will transpose that into like blueprint, like architecture blueprint, so that the carpenters know how to build a set. And that's like a branch of design as well that's vital but very scary and mathematical, which is not my forte, but I can do it. So if I can do it, anyone can. like maybe the wave of funding is slowly starting to come back to artists, because I've had loads of inquiries, way more than I've had before, for later in the year, which is a good sign. They won't all get funded, but it's good that people want to put my name down for stuff. And then normally what happens is they say, I'll go away, fill in the Arts Council application. And then if it's successful, then can you be designer on that job?
When you're working hand to mouth, not really knowing when the next thing's coming in, you do need that tenacity, you do need that resilience. And again, that's something that maybe the younger generation are going to struggle with, because I don't know, they won't have that experience.
It's not immediate, and at the moment there's a lot of immediate gratification going on. Like, quickly you can do anything, and it's just like, this is not that. This is not that. This is a slow burning career, with non-linear and non-logical results. And what I mean by that is, I've won awards, but I've also lost stuff. I've been put forward for stuff. I've been the last person in the room. I've been the first person. It doesn't matter. I've been put in front of panels who, you know, you're the bridesmaid or you're not the bride, but in some cases you really are that person's cup of tea. There's no kind of logic to it, because it's a very subjective. The arts is so subjective, and the circles I move in are really sort of like myth busting that process and trying to, reassure everyone that it's not if your face fits, which for a long time in the old school world of this industry it really was. But that's slowly changing now, and actually there's lots more opportunities coming through, and I'm really open with, every student I talk to or everyone who's interested in doing it. I always say to get in touch, because I'm really good at linking the right person to the right opportunity, or the right shadowing opportunity, or the right work experience or whatever, because that is all that we've got. The workforce in the arts is 75% freelance. The other percent is the salaried percent, but they hold all the power, and it's absolutely mental, because if the 75% walked away,
yes,
you wouldn't have productions on, and you wouldn't have film, and you wouldn't have anything on Netflix. So, it feels only right that there should be more protection towards the freelance workforce, but that's a very slow burner, and not one that is always very important with government. Unfortunately, the funding is all, I think money talks when it comes to that.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Well, that point was made well. Couldn't get my words out there, but yes.
Yeah, can you tell that I wake up in the middle of the night angry about that?
Not at all, not at all. I think it came across beautifully. Has there been any projects that you've just thought, oh my gosh, this has changed everything about me?
Yeah, because I did a presentation the other day.
I'm not stalking you, by the way. I don't know about this presentation.
No, it's okay. No, it was one to Trent University students, and I've got a similar one to do for London College of Fashion students in May. There've been lots that have been pivotal in my career in terms of absolutely incredible companies that I've worked with. So I've worked with companies who are integrated in working with professional learning disabled actors alongside maybe non-hearing and hearing actors. Like, the rooms that I've been in are completely joyful and always hold a mirror up to your practice and make you more aware of how you are as a person and how to be sensitive and allow for the needs of others. And that also crosses into when I work with SEND students, or and all of these people are just as talented and interested in being in the arts, but the arts needs to allow, and be more flexible than it is. So that there's been some amazing moments there, but I think for my career, one of the pivotal moments was actually last summer, August 2024, where I designed the trials at Nottingham Playhouse, and was given an opportunity to design on that big main stage at Nottingham, which it sounds like nothing, but it's something that I never thought I would get invited to do, or not so or whatever. I don't know. You just, because like I say, it's not linear and it doesn't make sense. You never know where your next dinner's coming from. So you just sort of go with the flow. And yeah, it was a play called The Trials by Dawn King, who's an amazing playwright, and it's basically a play commenting on young people and their reaction to the climate crisis, and it's set in the future where they have the power to decide who to put on trial for crimes against the planet. And so it's kind of like Lord of the Flies meets the Nuremberg trials, meets the Hunger Games, and the center of this play is young people. I think the eldest we had was not more than 17. So it was amazing. So we had that alongside professional adult actors as well. And I'd wanted to do this play at drama school when I trained, and we didn't get the rights. So I thought, oh, no, I'll never get to do it. And then it came back to me in my career, like nearly 3 years after graduating. And the offer was there, like down the road from me. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I couldn't want to do that anymore. And not only did I have the best time and best production process working in that building, which is just infamous for the shows that it puts on, we achieved something called advanced status on something called the Theatre Green Book, which is an actual document now that is circulated in the theatre industry for designers and production companies to follow, to amend processes and see how you can work in a greener and more sustainable way when designing for stage. And so everything has a second life, gets reused again. You try and lower deliveries, or you try and, all of those things. There's like criteria to hit. And for a mainstay show under my design to hit advanced on every single marker of the production, like the set and the costume and that part of it, was an absolute career highlight. And we had an evaluation process after, and I was just so grateful and so happy and chuffed, because I never do anything else again. I thought, I've made the point there, because I've been banging the drum for ages, that to work sustainably, you don't have to lower the quality. The quality can still be completely first class, but can still look amazing. And it did. And so that was amazing, and everyone loved the show, and it was really well received. So yeah, that was one of the latest things I was really proud of.
Well done.
And it goes to, because I think that's the morals I live by. So, it's not hard for me for that to leak into my work, because it's just how I like to be in my life anyway. I didn't, we reused scenery from every show that come before in the season. I melted it all down into this design for this show and amalgamated it into the design that ended in the trials. So the concept was green,
and everyone got behind it.
That's what, and everyone got behind it, because it takes an army, right? Because it wasn't, it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the army behind that getting involved. So yeah.
How many people were actually involved in that project then?
I think the cast was big. There was quite a few on production team. There's full-time staff, freelance staff in that building. It must have been, I would say, maybe, if I'm thinking of the email chains, it must have been about 40, between 40 and 50. It's got to have been, like, in terms of the wider group of people that was all feeding into it. It's got to be that.
And then the ripple effect of that.
Yeah.
The ripple effect is massive.
Yeah, and the audience as well that came. We had Q&As after, and they were really enthused about it, and they were asking the kids stuff, and the young people were like asking them. It was brilliant. And we had people from the actual Theatre Green Book come from London to actually walk on the stage and see it like there in the flesh as well, and be like, oh, like it, so yeah, the proof is in the pudding. I always let the work speak for itself. I can put my money where my mouth is, and I got given the opportunity to do that, because you wait for a bus, don't you? You wait and wait and wait, and then the right one comes eventually. So yeah,
a little bit like this podcast episode.
Yeah, the end of last year was awful, and there was a lot of sadness involved in that as well. And out of that came lots of I guess growth and regeneration into this new year. So yeah, and then the trials in the middle of that. So yeah, it was all meant to be.
We have to go through things. We can't hide away from the trials.
Yeah.
And the other word that goes with that, the tribulations.
Yeah.
We can't ever say just the trials without the tribulations. But I think something that I really admired about you, even back then when we first connected, was that you're, just recognizing where we need to take a step back. And I think as creatives, we often find that very difficult, because if we're not working not only do we not get paid, but actually we're not doing what we need to express. But sometimes we just need to stop, don't we? And
I am getting
take
better at that.
stock.
It was I tell you what, everyone was like, what's your, New Year's resolution and all that? And mine was to take one thing away, not try and do something new. And that was a really good thing for me, actually. And no one else got that. Well, people like you got that, those people that my fellow
Yes.
artists here were like, yeah, okay, so the New Year's resolution is to make sure there's 2 days a week. If not, you can do one, but there is a day where you do not open your laptop. You just don't do it, no matter what deadlines approach you. And always, it feels really scary to do that. And then the next day I go back to it, I completely feel better and I'm not stressed. It's weird how in your most stressed moment, the thing to do is to step back. It takes a lot of time to practice that because it doesn't feel natural to do that. But yeah, that's what I'm definitely starting to do. So, e.g. like this, like it wasn't the right time and I wanted to give it the right moment to actually chat. And then this has totally been, you've got the authentic me now because I chose to, step away from the stresses. And then, yeah, I'm planning better. But I live and die by the Google Calendar. God, I mean, if something's not in there, then, oh my God, honestly, the world falls apart. I don't know what I do. I'm a bit worried, actually. Like, I don't have a written one anymore. I used to have one. Now it's just on my phone.
Adulting
No one warned. I did not sign up for the adulting.
No one tells you.
It was thrust upon us and no one told us about it.
How dare they? Take us back to the simpler times. That's
when there
what
was
I
no
say.
laptops and iPads. Great.
No laptops, iPads, phones, like going out in the wood. I mean, we used to disappear all day, me and my friends,
Play
into the wood,
outside.
and we didn't have a phone between us. We used to play outside from dusk till dawn, and my dad would whistle for us. We could hear his whistle.
My mum had a bell, like the Titanic bell,
Yes,
going down. Yeah,
a
she
bell.
used to stand down, and scream with that bell, and we just knew we had to. That's hilarious.
We just know. My dad had a certain whistle. I mean, I can't do it because I can't whistle.
That's so
and then
good. I love
I'd turn to my sister and I'd say, right, that's Dad, we've got to go.
Whistle
And we'd
you
hop
in,
over the wall
like the
and straight in.
dogs.
We'd have dinner, we'd sit down, we'd talk about the day. It'd say, you've been over the woods, we've told you not to go over to the woods, your clothes are filthy.
Yeah, but I was retrieved by the whistle, and that's all that matters. I have a good recall.
Have you had a good time?
I've loved it, Lucy, honestly. And I think what you're doing is wonderful. I remember when Debs mentioned it to me, I thought, that is such a good idea. And at one point I thought the same about all the podcasts I listen to. And actually, I want to hear from artists about the realities of it.
Yes.
So that, I love it. I love what you're doing.
It's the messy wilderness. I mean, I even asked my friend the other day, tell me about your wilderness. And then I thought, that sounds really... Tell me about your bush.
That's really interesting what you said, though, about the analogy of you playing in the woods as a child and now arriving here to talk about wilderness.
Yes.
That's quite poignant. There's a lot in that because it's almost like, are we still in the woods but no one's whistling us back in? Or is it the other way around?
Ooh.
Food for thought.
Food for thought. We're going to leave it there.